What's going on, guys? Big welcome to our channel. We are team crushing the meta. As you can see from the sleeves and a little bit from the playmat, we're here with the deck profile on Great Nature. So I've been testing this deck for a little while now, and I have come up with the idea that you can build this deck differently depending on your playstyle, but the deck doesn't really have that much options. But depending on changing a card or two, or sometimes even three, will change the way that the deck plays. So before we jump into the deck or the actual deck list, I really want to explain some things. First of all, you need Excel markers. You need definitely 6 or more than 6 Excel markers, because you will use them in this deck. You can get any fancy one that you like. I myself like these a lot, but you can get any that you like. Doesn't really matter. You really need them, especially in this deck. Next thing is that before going into the deck list, as I said, it's very important on how do you want to ride your grade 3s. So going into the grade 3s, we actually have 3 main grade 3s that you could use in this deck. We have the overall really good grade 3, your go-to, which is Leopold. You really want to get this card as your second right target. It's also okay to have him as the first, but you would rather have him as your second right target, and from that moment on you keep riding into Leopold, Leopold, Leopold. I will not be explaining the skills in this video, so I'm assuming that you already know the skills. If you don't, and you really need me to explain it to you guys, just put a comment in the comment section below, and I'll try to make another video, guys, to talk about the skills and how to use some of the cards in combo with each other. So the other grade 3 that you could ride is Hamsuk or Hamske, depending on whatever you want to call him, or just Hamster. So I like to call him Hamske or Hamsuk, depending on what I want at the moment. Doesn't matter. This is the grade 3 that you want to write first. It's okay to write him first because he gives you the extra circle and he fill up your field somehow. On the other hand, it's also okay to write Bison. It's always okay to write Bison, but he is by far your least want to go into right target. But the good thing about Bison is he could be first, second, third, fifth, whatever. He does his job always pretty good. The only one downside to Bison is he does need the counterblast, while these two do not. So the way that I see the deck, what you really want to do is ride into the Hamsuk first. That's what you want to do. And from that moment on, you want to keep going into Leopolds as much as you can. Sometimes you go into 3, sometimes you go into more, but most situations this is where the game will end, like in this setup. So you have 2, 3, 4, 5 Excel circles, which is incredible at this moment. And that's when your opponent cannot guard, or they lock sack, let's say a trigger or 2 where you can't hit anymore and you don't get up front in your drive check, and that's when every Excel clan will break. But this is your best setup, in my opinion. Some people would even like to do it like this. So go into 2 Hamsuks and then go into a Leopold. It is possible, but this would mean that they will destroy your hand, and you will be lucky to have some Hamskes left in your deck as grade 1 and grade 2s. So yeah, I myself don't really like this setup. Some people even do it like this, if they could, which means that they have a lot of right targets, and this will finish it off. It's possible. Again, I don't recommend it because they deplete your hand while he gives you a lot of advantage. And when you get the crit and the power, this does give up more cards from your opponent's hand to guard, and at the same time, just filling up your field is really good. Just milling those normal units is really good. And you combine him well with the tank mouse, so by milling another grade 3 or some important cards, you can get them back to your hand, which is the good thing. That's why you want the tank mouse already on the field while you go into him, so that's why he's mostly your second right target. So this is actually, in my opinion, the best setup. Then we have Bison. With Bison, it really doesn't matter where he comes in. He could come before the Hamsuke, he could come in between them, he could come in between anything. And as I said, he does his job perfectly. Some people would say, okay, then why you don't take out one Bison and you put an Hamsuke in there? Because then we have 4 on 4 on 1. So that's also possible, but again, I don't recommend it because I really don't want to go first into Leopold or into a Bison and then go back into an Hamsuke. And when you run 4 copies of the Hamsuke, you will see him a lot. So going into the grade 3s or going to the deck profile, this is the setup that I have come up with. So you play 2 copies of Bison, 3 copies of the Hamsuke, and 4 copies of the Leopold. As you can see, there is some synergy right here, the 4-3-2. It's important to run 8 or more grade 3s, of course, in standard, especially in this deck because you want to rewrite. But the important thing right here is you always want to have a grade 3 in your hand. You want to see him first if you get the right target, the right chain right. If you don't get the right chain right, then there is no reason to ride him. He does give you only 1 circle and he does nothing. The only good thing that he still does is he does power up your rearguards, which are the Hamsukes. So that's a good thing. Bison, on the other hand, still put the pressure on your opponent early game. So that's also very good. But again, I already told you the setup that I recommend the most if you have the right cards in your hand. So that's it. Going into the grade 2 lineup, we have some different cards that we could go into. There are a lot of good cards, and most importantly, you want to get at least 4 copies of the Binoculus Tiger. He is amazing. This card, again, the same as Leopold, is only giving you a lot of advantage. By only counterblasting 1, and the skill is not even on plays, it's on attack, so that's the best way that it could work. You could draw your card, or retire one of your opponent's rearguards and give your front row more power. So definitely play 4 copies of him. Now this is where things change. You could play 4 copies of the Hamsuke grade 2 for consistency. If you do, then you would have less, let's say, spots for the other grade 2s that you want to run in here. So it is possible. I didn't feel the need to play 4, especially because I only want to run or ride the Hamsuke once. I really only want to ride him once, and that's it. I don't want to ride him more than once, and that's why I think the 3 copies of him is more than enough. Then I play 3 copies of the Geographic Giant and 2 copies of the Zebra. So in my opinion, both of them are good. The Geographic Giant is good because he keeps the power, so defensively your opponent has a hard time to get rid of him, while the Zebra could get more power, especially by going against Force, which he becomes 19 by only using your Leopold, while this card becomes 17, 27, and this is 19, 29. So still, both of them are huge beat sticks, so really good to run, and the Zebra stays on the field longer actually, because mostly if they have a retire ability they would get rid of the Geographic Giant and they end up not attacking into the Zebra or attacking into it, and you don't really need a lot to guard that attack. So, and then it's really up to you. You could take one of the Geographic Giants or take one Zebra out to put one more Hamsuke in here as possible, and then you could out like this. You could play 4-4-4. You have a lot of varieties, let's say, when going into the grade 2s. Another grade 2 that I really want to show you guys is actually this card. So I really like him. The thing about this card, it's actually pretty good. It has the hit ability, which does help you out, especially if you go first to attack into your opponent and your opponent would have to guard, but it only works as a rearguard and he's an 8k. That's the reason why I took him out. If this card would work as Vanguard and rearguard, then I would have kept it in, and if this card has at least 9k, then I would have kept it in as well. But the thing is with this card is normally you really don't want to put up boosters, early in the game, and when going against let's say any other clan that has 9k or 10k as Vanguard, he cannot hit, and that's the reason why you really don't want to run him. But there is something else that I will show you later. So for the Grade 1 lineup, it's pretty stable. You actually run 4 copies of each, because there is no other Grade 1 that you really want to put in this deck. The only thing that I could think of is of course the Silver Wolf, which if you really want to take all the Hamskes out, so play 4 Bison and 4 Leopold, which I do not recommend, but it's possible, then you could take out the Grade 2 Hamskes to put more Geographic Giants and Zebras, or even discard if you want to. And then for the Grade 1 lineup, for the Grade 1 slot, for the Pencil Square, you could just put the Silver Wolf or the 9k, or if you really want to be a pain in the ass for Narukami, you could also play this card. But yeah, again, I do not recommend it. So this is actually the strongest lineup that you could make for the Grade 1. And again, for the Grade 2 and the Grade 3s, you could put one more Hamske as Grade 2 and one more Hamske as a Grade 3 to make the deck more consistent. But when you make the deck more consistent, you have less options, which I really don't want. I want to go in between consistency and more options, leaning more into consistency. That's why I play 3 on 3. But again, it's up to you and with your play testing, and again, against which deck you play. For the trigger lineup, of course, we're going with 4 heal and 4 draw. There is no reason to not play heals in this deck, in my opinion. This deck could go into late game pretty easy, and you do make a lot of advantage having cards in your hand, so you do need your shield. And then, this is the thing that I changed up a lot, the front triggers. Now I'm running 8 fronts. Why? Because you really benefit a lot from drive checking a front trigger. Again, it's possible to play a crit or 2, even 1 does help out, because playing the 1 crit, meaning that when your opponent sees it, they think, oh shit, he plays crit, and they guard your Vanguard attack. And if they don't see it and they let your Vanguard attack go through, sometimes you drive check that crit and you catch them off guard. But that strategy does not really, is definitely not effective, and I will tell you why. Your Vanguard attack is pretty weak. Even by getting the extra 15k that Leopold get, he already has a crit, so your opponent will definitely guard him, so there is no reason to gamble on drive checking an extra crit, because your opponent would not take 2 damage to the face, and maybe even having the 3rd by you getting critical trigger. So that's why if your Leopold gets the 15k in a crit, your opponent would guard him. Let's say that you have your Vanguard and you have a booster behind him, then your Vanguard could hit for the 20 max, the 20k. That's max that your Vanguard could hit. And with that in mind, if your opponent is playing Force or XL or anything, it's just a 20k shield from their hand is already 2 to pass. So yeah, I don't really see a reason why you do need to play crits in this deck, because your Vanguard attack is so weak that your opponent would definitely guard him, while you benefit a lot from having a front trigger, because you have you start with 2 XL circles, so you have 4 rear guards on the front row, then 5, then 6, then 7, which is just incredibly annoying for your opponent. Also, one more important thing is that the front trigger is also very good defensively. When you get that in your damage check, all of your front row will get the extra 10k, meaning that your opponent, that last rear guard that they have, really cannot attack into one of your rear guards, so you keep your rear guards, which is good. Or they would just go for your Vanguard again, which is only a 5k, and you intercept one of the rear guards that you don't need anymore, and it's good enough as well. But with having the critical trigger, you do need to give power. And the last thing that is the front good at is, all of you guys that play XL know this, that having a front trigger in your first drive check means you don't have to gamble on a 2 to pass. So getting the front trigger, you're already going into the 2 to pass, and then you get a draw or a heal or another front, and you're through. By drive checking 2 fronts, you would destroy your opponent right there. Your opponent will have to give up a lot of card value to stop the attacks. So that's actually it. I'm really enjoying this deck, and I really didn't think that this deck would be this much fun to play. But again, you could build it the way that you like to. Especially don't ever think of the Hamskays as a bad thing. You could definitely try them out, but first, if you really are confused, or you really don't like them, or I've seen some YouTubers like Maxime was talking about, Solomon Vanguard was talking about the Hamskays in a bad way. I mean, it's his opinion. I have talked a lot with Tim van Arke, one of our best Great Nature deck in the Netherlands, and also some other people that played the deck. Eric from Vanguard Insider will also talked about the deck a little bit, and he made a great deck profile on his channel as well. But these guys, take them out. Just take them out. Just take them out, put anything you want in here, and play the deck. And then after that, put them in a good way. Don't put just 2 Hamskays and 3 of this and 3 of that or anything. Play this guy always at 4. You could play 3 or 4 of this and 3 or 4 of this, and try the deck out with them, and the deck works different, a lot different. So, and again, this deck did win wards, and that was not of nothing. Of course, of the skills of the players that done that, but again, it was not of nothing. I mean, the deck is amazing. Even going against clans like Kagura and Narukami, you still can build up your field amazingly. So again, guys, thanks for watching. Tell me what you think about the deck, and tell me if you have built it differently. Again, in the grade 2 and grade 3 lineup, you could make some changes to make the deck more consistently, consistent. I have tried to play the 4 Hamskay, but I really didn't need him, and I find myself having the same results as playing 3. But yeah, I think that the deck works really good, and I'm very happy with my choice, as this is the Excel clan that I will be playing most of the time for standard. So thanks guys for watching, and till next time.